you want to mute your mic, Taylor, please? Thanks. Do you want to mute your mic, Taylor, please? Do you want to mute? And you could. You want to mute your mic, Taylor? There we go.
All right, I believe we are live. If I am seeing this correctly, what's up, guys? My name is Peter Overzet. I am joined by the man hosting us on his YouTube channel. You know him as Brick75, Brian Hooper. Thank you for having me into your YouTube DFS lounge tonight.
Hey, do you hear an echo on this?
I do not hear an echo. You sound good to me, but I have sometimes you might get an echo if you have if you don't have the YouTube stream muted. Do you have that up?
Okay, you know what? I bet it is. It's probably the fact that I am.
It looks like the guys in the chat.
Stream. Now can you hear me?
Yeah, and I think the chat says we're good. Shout out to chat. We got Jose Flores. We got Wes Bearden. We got Stephen Alford. Are you good now, Brian?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm now, of course, when this happens, my I can't hear you at all.
You can't hear me?
Yes.
This was my long con all along to hijack Brian's show to the point where I would have all of the airwaves. Can you guys in the chat hear me, but not Brian right now?
Okay. Can they hear me now?
Actually, Brian, this is my favorite comment already. Shane goes, I don't understand this duo.
Can you hear me, Peter?
Yes, I can hear you. Okay. You can hear me?
I hear you fine.
All right. Okay. Everyone can hear us.
Kinks are worked out.
Yeah. Brian, explain to people like Shane that don't understand this duo. Make your case for why you are giving people this duo.
That is a good question. It is just because I sit here playing DFS and I get bored waiting for late news like this Rudy Gobert BS. And I was thinking, why am I sitting here? Why don't I just go live and talk to some people, while information comes in, and who would I like to do that with? And I'm a fan of you. So I threw a random chat and like, hey, would you want to go live with me on Wednesdays? And here we are.
Yeah, I mean, back in the 50s, they used to ask people if they wanted to go steady. And in 2020, you ask people if you want to go live.
Right. And, well, we have to have a distance between us now. So, this is perfect.
Yeah. I seriously today, I don't know how much of your behaviors have changed, but today was kind of like my big shift into full shutdown mode. Like, I'm not going to my gym anymore. I'm full work from home with my day job. And I'm like, outside of going to the grocery store and, maybe doing some, light exercise outside, like I'm packing it in, man.
I agree with you. I was at the gym yesterday or 2 days ago, and I came home and I saw your tweet, or you retweeted somebody where they were like going to each machine and then changing their mind, like, should I touch this? No. Yeah. Should I touch this? No. And plus it gives me an excuse not to go to the gym, which I don't need much of one. So for me, the grocery store is going to be a pain in the ass though, huh? Like I see, I've been watching like probably everyone else, all the experts on YouTube and all the, and like Brandon Adams had his podcast the other day.
That was really good.
Yeah. The Rebel Wisdom had a good one too. I don't know if anyone's checked that one out, but the guy, the Barton Options guy, he says he wears, I think it was him. I mix them all up now. He actually wears like single-use gloves when he goes to the grocery store.
Yeah. I heard him say that too. And to me, the single-use gloves make a lot more sense than even the masks as far as like the most practical thing. But let's see. I'm sure we will weave coronavirus talk throughout the show, as it is now just an ever presence in our lives. But it looks like the chat has already got NBA on their mind. They want to know what's going on with Devonta Graham. Is he off to a slow start?
I don't know. Let's see. Well, let's see how much I had of him to begin with. So I had 30%. That's not good. And we were trying to get this thing going too. So if there's any news in the last 5 minutes, I won't know it. It doesn't look like he got hurt though.
Yeah.
He's got okay. He's got 3 turnovers and an assist. He's got 0 points through 1 quarter. That's what he's playing like garbage apparently, and this guy doesn't like it. Neither do I.
Yeah.
Neither do I.
Yeah, so how this is going to work too is, I'm more of a single entry. Actually, I'm actually more of a not NBA player first and foremost. But when I do, I'm a single entry player. So when late breaking news happens and Brian needs to go in the lab and change some lineups, you guys will be stuck with me vamping. Yeah, I do have on my FanDuel lineup, I had Graham. It's always nice to pull that up and see a negative 1.5 points.
Yep. More penalty points for turnovers on FanDuel.
Although it seems like in most of these single entry contests, he's about 50% owned. So half of us are eating it together.
Yeah. Because Rozier was ruled out, so he was pretty good to play despite his ownership. So, like, what was his ownership at? Like 22%. Yeah, that's not on DraftKings. That's not even that horrible.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what are you gonna do?
Yeah. So what the big thing? So first of all, I was like, oh, we're going to do this show with Brian. There's plenty of stuff we can talk about, but we're obviously going to be talking a little bit about NBA. I should probably brush up, get some skin in the game, just so I'm a little acclimated. So I started playing the other night. I take 2 zeros on FanDuel with my Bucks starters. And then I'm like, all right, we'll go back to the well tonight. I'm taking Rudy Gobert and Bradley in and out of lineups. And I'm like, Brian, why do you guys do this? Answer that question for me. Why do you do this?
Yeah, no, it's if it wasn't for the money, there's no reason. That is the only reason I do it. So I don't know what everyone else is. People probably won't want to hear this, but I don't even watch the NBA anymore.
Yeah.
I haven't watched in like 3 years. But like I'm not against it. I'll watch like if I'm betting on it with like actual sports bet with like my buddies or something. Or maybe some playoff games.
Do you bet any like prop bets?
Yeah, not props, but I was probably 3 or 4 years ago. It's tough because it's illegal here, and so or it was anyways, and so like you're gonna get banned or limited so easily, so it's not really worth putting your time in. But like Bovada, a couple years ago, I got like Rudy Gobert's on my mind.
Yeah.
Rudy Gay over under like 18 rebounds on one night, which obviously what happened was they switched his points with rebounds.
Mm.
And so I max bet the under. They paid it out. The next night they did the same thing. Max bet it. They canceled the bet.
Really?
So like they might give you one bet.
Yeah.
Or something like that. But eventually you're gonna get limited. And unfortunately, that's what's gonna happen in the regulated environment too that we're about to. So Illinois, I think they took the first legal sports bet like today or this weekend or something.
All right, Brian, actually hate to cut you off. Breaking news here. Jazz Thunder has been delayed Wednesday and teams have been sent to locker rooms. Like, I don't even know what that means.
Oh, wow. This is,
I mean, is this coronavirus related?
You think?
I have.
Are they going to make the fans leave the stadium or something?
The beat writer for the Thunder, Royce Young, he thinks the game might have just been called.
Holy shit.
That is wild.
Yeah.
I don't even know. I mean,
Oklahoma. He's verified.
Yeah.
He only has 400 followers and he's verified. He says the game was postponed. He works for Channel 3 in Oklahoma.
Yeah. Shane's loving our live reaction here. How much Thunder and Jazz did you have?
I'm assuming quite a bit. Let's see here. Okay, so the Jazz had Tony Bradley. Okay. I actually was under with the Boban. I'm guessing. Let's see what Bradley was owned at. This is not what I pictured.
Brian was like, the world is crumbling in front of us. He's like, let's just hold up a mirror to ourselves as we watch it unfold. Oh, we got Sal Vetri in the chat. What's up, Sal?
Hey.
Sal, we're just someone tell us what's going on here. I started playing basketball, and then the basketball teams decided they wanted to stop playing. So that's the correlation does probably equal causation in this case.
Wes Brick had the look of $1,000s of dollars hinging on one man. I had 21% Bradley and 29% Mitchell.
I had a decent amount of Gallinari.
36% Gilgeous, and this is just DraftKings. So, yeah. You know who this is going to help is the game stackers.
Yep.
So, which is negative EV in the NBA. I'm trying to figure out a way if I can actually prove that verbally, but so like, but guys do it every night. Like I would say like 5% of lineups are game stacks. And so if they game stacked, although their last player, their third team player, hopefully he wasn't on for them anyways, hopefully wasn't on a Jazz OKC team. Wow, this is madness. You know, it happened a few years ago. The Sixers, I think it was the Sixers, their stadium floor got wet.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. What's just so weird about this is like not knowing what the reason is. Like, I wonder if even people in the stadium or the arena know what's going on there.
Okay, well, Woj just
here we
go. The Woj bomb. So,
but how is that decision not made before the game? This is wild.
Yeah.
Going back to your thought though about, do you think is the reason people you think like to game stack a ton, is it are you chasing like an overtime outlier thing, or is it
chasing the overtime outlier game, and like the risks aren't worth it in my opinion, because first of all, not all the gut players on those two teams will play in overtime. It's not like guaranteed. Because so like you could have a guy who doesn't close, and then you go to OT and you're not benefiting from it at all anyways. The points aren't always like distributed evenly, right? Like sometimes bench players could do better when they're not sharing usage with starters. And so like in an overtime, but there is a correlation. There's always a correlation that a game can go to overtime, and the tighter the spread, the higher the correlation, the higher chance of that occurring is happening. But like, there's no way it outweighs value and ownership adjustments. Not yet. I mean, not ever, probably.
Yeah.
At least that's my thought. But of course, then nights like tonight happen. So.
Right, because you didn't think of the other out for the game stackers is extra quarters or other games having less quarters, and they hit that one outer on the river.
Yeah. And maybe not though, because they might have Tony Bradley as their third team player, because you have to have three teams. So they could. That's another reason why it's not worth it. Like, okay, you also have to pick all the right players. It has to happen. You have to get lucky there, and then your third team player has to happen. Refs walking off court now.
So this is what Nate Duncan is saying. Oklahoma City broadcast saying that because there were illnesses with players prior to the game, Rudy Gobert among them, they're waiting for league approval to proceed. Players apparently conferred on this before the game. So I think there's like legitimate fear about if one of the players has corona.
Yeah, and there's no way they're going to be able to tell that in an hour?
No, we have rapid testing now. It's just in 30 seconds they can run the test on it.
Okay, we'll be fine then.
Yeah. Now, someone's saying it was about Chris Paul was complaining about Rudy Gobert being sick. This is that. So Rudy Gobert, from both a DFS micro level to the actual macro level has just
Yeah.
wreaked total havoc
Yeah.
on tonight.
No history of DFS. No player has had a bigger impact on a slate than Rudy fucking Gobert does tonight, by far.
Are you seeing this story that people are talking about on Twitter,
Yeah.
that as a joke, Rudy Gobert was touching every reporter's mic and recorder before the game as like a joke?
Funny.
Which is a great time for that joke.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially the older, soon to be retired reporters, I'm sure appreciated that, Rudy.
Yeah.
You know what though? In France, that shit is hilarious. So you got to give them, you got to give them a little leeway.
French humor is just different. We wouldn't understand it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Goodness, man. Well, I can't believe, I just thought we were just going to get a regular old night. I mean, talk a little. I mean, I'm the king of the XFL, and like XFL is like the ninth thing on our list to talk about tonight.
Yeah, I know. That should have been the whole show, but of course, Rudy Gobert.
Yeah, I mean, the whole show, I was like excited to tell everyone that Nelson Spruce was upgraded to a limited practice today.
Yeah, but I had a joke lined up. Was everyone wants to know, the world is wondering what you're paying at. The elephant in the room. Will Cardale Jones get his starting spot back?
It really is kind of the question that the nation is waiting to have
they
answered.
Don't care about this other stuff. They want to know.
Yeah.
Who the defenders are starting.
If I were hypothetically going on a first date with NBA DFS, I would have slipped out the back door by now. Is basically how my introduction this season to playing NBA DFS has gone. This has been truly a disaster.
You were right about the Overzet cooler.
That's right.
Never happened before.
You guys should all be telling me to stick to XFL right now.
So Fantasy Labs did another one. Jazz Thunder waiting for league confirmation to start Wednesday because of an illness before the game. All right. Well, they have to make a decision on all this stuff, and just get it over with. You know what I mean? I mean, just like no more fans for now.
Yeah.
Or something. I don't understand the point of that with like school closures. Isn't that? And I don't know why we're not gonna talk about all this stuff, but I feel like I have to now. It's like, okay, why wait till they get sick? I know, like, of course, there's a chance maybe they don't get sick, but like as soon as one kid gets sick, wouldn't it be better to close it before then?
Yeah. Well, I think that's I think why it's hard for some people to wrap their heads around all of this, of not like realizing like how this stuff is spreading in an exponential rate. And when it's doubling from 2 to 4, 4 to 8, you're like, yeah, it's fine, whatever, but not realizing how those exponential factors look as we move along the curve. It does seem like the NBA should have just been more proactive in shutting down having fans at the games just right away, which is what it seems like a lot of other leagues are trending in that direction.
Did you see this? The Check 182, he's a pro DFSer, retweeted somebody. The city of Oakland, California, issues order to cancel all large public events.
Yeah.
So that's, I don't know, I can't read it. The text is too small, but if it cancel it, then those Golden State games aren't just no players in the audience. That's just canceled.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is people say they don't want to listen to DFS experts, talk about coronavirus like they're medical experts. But here's the thing. Our president is doing a national address here in 35 minutes. And I promise you, whatever Brian and I say will be at least marginally more informed than that. So I feel like it's fair game for uninformed take season.
Yeah, no, the DFS world is definitely doing that. I've refrained, but yeah, I tweeted about that. My favorite DFS coronavirus tout.
Yeah. I will say though, like, and I'm sure you noticed because you're plugged in to the poker world, and it seemed like some of those guys, Mike McDonald, who has that betting site Poker Shares, Like he was trying to get action on the World Series of Poker being canceled. He was getting 20-1 odds on it being canceled back like 2 or 3 weeks ago. And it is funny that people that gamble or in predictive analytics had a more longer view of how this was going to play out than I think a lot of the public.
I'm surprised they got action on the other side. Like who's posting that bet? So like that is that I'm not familiar. Is that like you post a bet and then people take the other side?
So as I saw it, he started it as just trying to get action from his Twitter followers that he was going to, do peer to peer, but he also runs that site Poker Shares. And I think he did list it as an official market where he's the bank and charges the markup on taking that action. But he was taking action on both sides. But I think it just speaks to that idea of when it wasn't real or manifesting in our daily lives, it was easy. Oh, this is all overblown. Oh, it's never going to happen here or whatever. And so people who had the long view were able to somehow get some money down on that, which obviously an event like the World Series of Poker is like going to be one of the first things to get canceled.
Yeah. I mean, I'd like to see some of those odds. It's kind of a morbid thing to bet on period, but like, I can't see how this isn't gonna start getting a lot of cancellations.
Yeah.
Across the board. March Madness.
Yeah. I mean, because they announced today, right, that they were doing no fans in the stadium, but they might even get more drastic than that.
Yep. Especially I mean, it's what, 4 weeks long or 6 weeks long?
The tournament?
The tournament, yeah, something like that. Maybe 5 weeks.
Yeah.
So
I think 5
weeks from now, well, maybe they'll be able to do find one location, I guess. Yeah. I mean, at that point, like, I guess, DFS is not as important.
It's the only thing that's important, Brian.
It's
the only thing.
What am I saying? Rudy Gobert has driven me mad.
What's going on with the chat? They're talking about zombies. Someone wanted before the world ended. What did they say? They said, Brian, tell us the formula before the world ends.
Yeah. Okay. The formula, that's proprietary. No, I'm kidding. If you look at my DK lineups, there's no formula.
No, so it's actually right over your right shoulder. I see a little thing on the wall, and the answers to the entire DFS matrix are inscribed on that little painting.
Right. I keep the camera just far enough out of sight to keep people coming back. They don't care about my content at all. They just want to see if they can zoom in one day and read that.
Yep.
All right.
But yeah, if you guys do have I mean, I'm sure Brian and I could talk about coronavirus all night, but if you guys do have some questions, we will pass them along. Let's talk a little bit about golf tomorrow. Are you excited for the Players Championship?
Yeah. It looks like they're going to play as of right now.
Yeah.
Let me bring up my so I did a little work before earlier today so we could talk about it, but I'm going to redo this after we go off and, update with the latest information.
Yeah.
But I'm liking, for those who care, a little Ricky Fowler action.
Really?
As my, kind of.
I need to get my spreadsheet up here. So
yeah, why don't you bring up what you ended up with?
I haven't done my run yet.
Okay.
Because I was just waiting too for all the kind of finalized ownership projections and stuff to come in. But I do want to sort by ownership right now. We can look at who's trending toward being popular. I actually haven't listened to a ton of golf content this week, so I don't have a great feel on who's super buzzy. It does seem like another week where everyone's going to want to jam Rory.
I don't listen to any content really, but I'll tell you what, I have all the ownerships and I got my own. So I'll tell you what I'm thinking compared to everyone else.
It looks like what I have for my average across a couple sites is Bryson DeChambeau at the highest. Is that what you have?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm putting in. Okay. So, yeah, I have Bryson at 23%. I guess I don't want to give away anyone else's private information, like
Yeah.
Awesome and Alex and RG's, but they are about a little more than me, actually. In a full field event like this, so how many golfers do we have? 147 or something with the dropouts,
Yeah.
and Jason Day, who should just X out. That's pretty high to get up to like 27%. It's possible. But I mean, I'm gonna take the over on that if there was a market, but just slightly.
Yeah.
Just slightly. I have some differences than the other sites. I have a little. I think Rom and Fleetwood might be a couple clicks higher.
Yep.
Higher own. Although Fleetwood, after I don't take into account like recency bias of the field, and which has changed over the years. So like back in the day, so like 3-4 years ago, Tommy Fleetwood, he had a bad week, right? So you
Yeah.
would guess he'd be like 5 or 6% less owned than he rightfully should be.
Yeah.
But nowadays, like the market, the field's so sharp, there's not much of a drop off.
Yeah.
So I don't even take it into account, and I got him still like 20%, where the other sites are a little bit lower than me.
One thing that's been interesting to me with golf is I constantly hear people do not want to roster the guy who just won a tournament. Just I keep hearing this like narrative hangover effect thing. Although, there does seem to be even some like anecdotal evidence, backing up that narrative. Where do you stand on guys coming off of a big win, especially if it's like a career first win or something?
Yeah, I don't take it into account, and I know Daniel Kahneman's done some studies on like the hot hand in basketball, and he
Yeah.
cannot find any sort of correlation. And so, like, if he can't, there's no way I can. And if I, there's no way we can. And if you can't quantify it, if the best in the world can't quantify it, then why are you using it at all? That would be my argument. I think that's kind of just like a reverse martingale system, kind of like
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like kind of like I think the other bias goes the same way too, that I think people do in PGA and probably other sports, is like if you take a guy, let's say he's your highest owned guy and he shits the bed, you double down like, okay, this week he'll be good because last week he shit the bed, so this week he's got to be good.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like the reverse of the same idea. When in fact, like it's just like the guy's going to make the cut 73% of the time. That's what it is.
Yep.
Right.
Well,
And
go ahead. I was just going to say, and I feel like this trend, because I saw it a lot in football this year, and it's also, you mentioned the reverse martingale thing, but it's to the, we saw how many times this year, well, first of all, like on the other side where like Will Fuller would be a dud for 4 weeks and then he'd still be 40% owned the week he goes off because everyone's not box score watching. But on the same hand, like Stephon Diggs went off for a 40 burger and was like 5% owned the next week in that same thing. Like, well, he did it last week. He can't do it this week.
yeah.
And we're like in this different era where people are less box score watching and like wanting to like zig or zag like ahead of a result almost.
Yeah, I mean, that could be the case. I don't know if that is driving the ownership as much as it is as like it in a way that matters.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think just doing a standard sort of statistical analysis to come up with your own ownership projections, I think you can just ignore that kind of information and just go with past data to come up with sharp enough information. And to be honest, like if a guy's 17% owned or 14% owned, it's not really going to change a whole lot anyways.
Yeah.
And that might, and so like, how much is this going to change ownership one direction or another? Like not much.
Right.
You just want to be as close as you can. Like, I don't know if anyone can get like an R squared of like higher than like 0.85 anyways. I mean, none of the guys I'm none of the paid subscription guys are getting that high accuracy on their projections. So, I mean, just going to that microscopic level, I think like, okay, no, first get your ownership projections, ours up to like 0.85 or something higher than that. And then come and tell me, oh, and you could do this and get it up just a little bit more.
Yeah. Well, I'm just gonna. I know loosely what you're talking about, but for people who don't know what an R value is when looking at and like back testing data, explain to them what you mean by that.
Sure. The R is the amount of correlation between your variables and what you're trying to predict. And you do that, and you can do it in Excel with the data analysis pack, or you could buy an expensive stats program. And you just basically just put what you think predicts X. So I think ownership is predicted by Roto Grinders ranking. Someone asked a Roto Grinder question here. And honestly, it probably does. I don't do it, but it probably does. So like you could put Roto Grinders rankings in there, whatever else you think predicts salary, the things you were mentioning, whether he won last week or not. And then in your last column would be what you're trying to predict. And for us, that's ownership. And so you'd have to keep track of all the CSVs. And then you run that, you run a regression on it. It's in the data analysis pack. You could Google it. It's not super complicated. And then what it pumps out gives you a little explanation box of how correlated each one is depending on the program you're using, and what the R square, the overall correlation between your variables and what you're trying to predict is. And so it depends on what sport you're doing and what you're trying to accomplish. But in ownership, in most of the sports, in my experience, like if you can get over 0.8 R squared, you're doing pretty good.
Yeah, we got Kool-Aid in the chat, and I just saw this tweet here too. Oklahoma City police are closing the Chesapeake Energy Arena after tonight's Oklahoma City Thunder game stopped abruptly. They're working to find why, but it seems like that game is donezo.
Yes. Yes, sir. Fun.
Very fun. Very fun. You know, talking about our values, talking about game. I feel like I always see
I
always see the NBA like Twitter, cognoscenti do the gif of the guys shoveling, money into the furnace. Mm-hmm. And I kind of always rolled my eyes because like it's a little hacky, a little trite at this point. But now actually feeling myself, I'm ready to just throw that gif up there. I'm one of you guys now.
Put your face on the guy. The cartoon is what they do. They keep switching the face out. Yeah, and then everyone starts tweeting out or commenting in the forums, FanDuel needs to reimburse us for this outrage. And it's like, hey, I want to be reimbursed too, but it's like, how is this FanDuel's fault in any way?
Well, and here's the thing, right? Like if half the field had an advantage going in that the other half didn't, then it would make sense but everyone's working under the exact same rule set, what's up?
Sorry. Who this does benefit is amateur recreational players, because it hurts people with 150 lineups more, disproportionately more.
Yeah.
I know people, so someone could say that's not true, Brian, because I'm just as likely to have Tony Bradley as you. That's true. But I paid 150 times more than you because you only entered once. I entered 150 times.
Yeah.
Right. So and there's a whole bunch of 1, 2, 3, 4 entries into these big tournaments. So that's another reason why if you throw 1 or 2 entries into the big one, you're going to lose money overall if you don't know what you're doing. But crazy things happen.
You just gave me inspiration for a tweet. How much was the big contest on FanDuel tonight? That you would have won 50 max?
The $15 entry, 100K to first.
Yeah. So that's $2,250.
I guess. Yeah.
All right. if I had 150 lineups, I could have lost $22,250 too.
Well, not 22,000. I think 2,250.
Yeah. 2,250. Okay. Yeah, it is true. I mean that when you play 150 lineups, you're trying to maximize your upside, and in situations like this, it could also maximize your downside.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. That's right. So my number one lineup right now has Steven Adams from OKC. And my number two lineup, Steven Adams from OKC.
Yeah. Yep.
PJ Washington going off.
We picked a great time to start doing a sports DFS show, right as all the sports are thrown into chaos and get canceled.
Just the whole world. When we were like pre-showing yesterday, it's like, okay, we could talk about the pandemic, the stock market, these are all horrible things. DFS not happening because of the pandemic. There's nothing positive here.
I will say a bit of housekeeping for people. You guys should like and subscribe to Brian's channel here. And if you turn on the notification button, I think tentatively, you know, barring a complete global and economic collapse, we plan to do these on Wednesday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern or around that time. Feel free to turn on the notifications and you guys can come hang with us under these uncertain times.
Taylor asked us the question. Our producer's asking us a question. Where does a postponed game put you guys in terms of your betting? So, like, for me, it's probably a net negative for sure. I might get a little lucky because I pivoted from one of the guys who was postponed, Bradley, to Boban, who is playing. And so I might be able to get lucky, but like, I mean, at least 40% of my money's gone just right off the bat without even any performance, I would guess, something like that. Yeah. I won't be able to tell you till later. And it depends on which ones I have in the higher dollar ones. So I don't know what the high dollar one was today, $4,000 or whatever. So I had 3 of those. I had 800s. So hopefully, I don't know. I don't want to think about it now.
Taylor, I won't tell you how much I lost because it would make you sick to your stomach.
Oh, wow.
Me just knitting it up over here. That's the at least when I jumped into NBA, I didn't dive in too head first.
That's smart.
But yeah, no, I am looking forward to golf tomorrow. It does seem like in general, the outdoor events are going to have a better chance of staying on schedule than a lot of these indoor events. So hopefully PGA stays dialed in here as we hit kind of the fun tournaments coming up. But I don't even know. Like I at this point, I'm not ruling anything out. I wouldn't be surprised if the Masters, you know, within a month, you know, if that's still on. I don't know. Like, what would you set the odds on right now that the Masters go off without a hitch?
Well, let's check the date, man. I don't know the exact date. Masters golf.
So that is it's literally a month from now, right? It's March 9th.
I'm getting April 9th.
Or April 9th, sorry. So yeah, March 4 weeks from tomorrow.
I would give it a 60% chance of playing. Maybe 70, somewhere around there.
Maybe slightly more pessimistic than you. I would have it maybe like slightly over 50%, but
okay.
Yeah.
You know, they are one sport that can just go like, let's fly to the Dominican Republic. We'll play that week here. I mean, you can't do that with the Masters, obviously, but with the smaller ones. No, you know what? It must take them forever to set those things up.
And not to mention, like, PGA, they get off on the prestige and the history of that course. Like, I just can't imagine. I could see, for like ancillary events, but I feel like that would either be, you know, it's Augusta or bust probably for that.
Yeah. It is outdoors though. You're right. So maybe they'll last a little longer. Looks like the MMA. I just saw a tweet from Kyle. Was it Marley, the MMA guy?
Yeah.
And he was talking about the Khabib fight getting canceled.
The one in April, right?
Yeah, theoretically. And that you gotta go. Well, maybe they could fight with no one there. That would be weird.
That's what I've heard out of the MMA stuff is that they're talking about doing it at these almost like closed circuit like studios, like setting it up in there and doing it. So hopefully that stuff could still go on. But it's not even just about then concentrating people too. Like you're still talking about, flying production crews and all of that, movement. Like a lot of the things now that seem like it wouldn't be a huge deal, I think will be huge deals in a month's time. So yeah, I don't think
Yeah.
anything is safe. Density asked a question. You're way more familiar with this than me, playing a ton of slates and seeing some of this random stuff. They ask, is it possible they hold or I think they're trying to say that they don't pay out the contest until the game is replayed later.
I seriously doubt it. Well, we do have one example when that Philly game was canceled. I remember it well because I had like 80% DeMarcus Cousins in that game, and they didn't. They just played it out, and you get a zero for that player or
Yeah.
those players. So I would not expect that they're going to hold it.
I was just thinking, do they have a showdown contest for the postponed game so you get to chase your losses from the main slate?
I bet they do a free roll, maybe.
Yeah.
They might do like a free roll or give away some DK bucks or something. I mean, it's not the site's fault, honestly. So like, I'll take the free money with everyone bitching, but it's just what are you gonna do? It's crazy times now.
It really
Crazy
is.
times. Yeah, it's nutty. It's good time to start.
I was having memories of other random events that have happened at NBA games, and one that came to my mind, not that they had to close it down, but do you remember at the Spurs stadium when the bats were flying around and like Manu Ginobili knocked it down?
Yes. Yeah. And then a bunch of PETA people got pissed at him. I don't know if you remember
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Which also has this weird full circle thing with, coronavirus ostensibly starting because of someone eating a bat soup.
Right.
So there you go, a nice little synergistic tie-in.
Yes. Yeah. Managing only to the coronavirus. It's come full circle.
So one thing, as I was poking through the DFS lobby, it always, basically up until this point, Brian, for a while I was like 95% NFL DFS. I used the off season to kind of decompress. I do a little bit for a major, maybe a little NBA here and there, but I just kind of took it off. This year, I'm getting more into stuff, been playing golf, been getting into MMA. But as I'm always looking at these, tabs up on DraftKings, I see LOL, which I learned is League of Legends. And I'm starting to think this might be one of the only sports that is still going on here. Have you dabbled at all in League of Legends?
I have never played. I think that's the only tab I haven't clicked.
The only tab, has it even crossed your mind?
It has crossed my mind. I've thought about it.
What is that thought process for you? Because like when you decide, okay, I'm going to commit, I'm going to learn a new sport, I'm going to, create whatever resources and tools I need to succeed at this. Like when you think of that for say, League of Legends, does it just stress you out thinking about how much work that would require for you to get caught up to speed?
Yeah, it does. It doesn't stress me out, but that's exactly what I do is so like for tennis, I did that. And so now I have a really good tennis model in my opinion. And so League of Legends, I thought the same thing. Okay, so where can I get data from? Are there any predictive markets out there? Can I easily get them? Do they cover all the information I need for that sport or is close to it? Like, is there any stat sites for the sport? Just is information easy to get, like somewhat easy to get. And it doesn't have to be super easy because I could, scrape sites that other people can't, things like that. So I do I'll take like a few, I've never done this without LOL, but I'll spend like a couple days just researching all those sorts of things.
Yeah.
And then with tennis, I was like, okay, I could definitely do this. So then I put in a bunch of time to do it. But with soccer, I started that and then stopped because it just wasn't working for me, especially like the 8:00 start on Saturdays just wasn't like good for my timing.
I pulled up this contest on DraftKings. There's a slate that starts tomorrow at 2 a.m. So clearly this is happening, I assume somewhere in Asia. Brian, I am going to list off. So there's all these players in here that have like just single names for the most part, one-word names. I'm going to list off a couple, and you have to tell me which one is the name of a League of Legends player out of a set of 3.
Okay.
Your first 3 options: Fofo, Momo, or Go.
Okay, those are 3 teams. Those are
No,
teams or one.
2 of those are fake. One of those is a real League of Legends player. So you have to. It's like 2 truths and a lie, but it's 2 lies and a truth.
Go over again. Then Momo,
Go, Fofo.
Okay, that's easy. It's gotta be.
You guys could play along in the chat too.
Gotta be Go.
Nope, it's Fofo. Second highest priced player on the slate, 11,700.
Oh, he's a stud.
He's a stud, man. Fofo. All right, I got another set for you.
Okay.
Set of 3. One of these is real.
All right.
Bravery, courage, hope.
Jesus, those are all stupid. Hope.
Yeah. Okay, you got that one right. Hope.
How much is Hope?
Hope is also 11-7 tomorrow. But it seems like he has a slightly easier matchup according to the opponent rank, which we know.
You're identifying his gender. That might be a female, unless you've researched.
You're right. I overstepped my boundaries.
Hope
Solo.
This would be a good way to pick the 6, right, and just enter that lineup.
I actually am. I'm gonna enter this into the corner jukebox because I actually think okay. Yeah, let's keep going. All right, here's another one for you. Oh, it's a captain format, Brian.
Okay.
That's pretty. I'm putting Fofo in the captain, dude.
Now you're gonna win. Yeah. Well, Fofo's got to get in there.
Okay. All right. Next up. Oh, dude, this is weird, man. Okay. Sorry, I'm learning a lot. All right. Here's 3 more. Smirk, wink, blink. Smirk,
wink, blink.
Wink.
I'm gonna go with smirk.
It is wink.
Wink.
There's a guy coming in at 11,400 named Wink. And again, an individual.
Yes.
Let's see. Here we go. You are, what are you? 1 for 3?
1 for 3.
Okay. Frog, dog, rat.
Oh God. Okay. Well, they eat dogs in Korea. Are frogs indigenous there? I don't think so. I'm gonna go with rat.
You got it. I was trying to trick you from the Proctor side of doing frog and dog rhyming, thinking you would think it was one of those, but you saw right through my ploy.
Yeah.
Okay.
My racial stereotypes.
Okay, I'll do one more and then I'll stop. Okay. Gun paint, sword art, knife draw.
Knife draw.
It's sword art.
Sword art, of course it is. How much is he or she?
Let's see. 6,300 bargain bin.
Bargain bin. You gotta have a couple of those go off for if you want to win an LOL GPP.
Great points per dollar LOL play. Sword art. There you have it, Brian. I think it's time we whip up our League of Legends model here with all the regular sports getting canceled.
Yeah, no, that we were gonna have to do that. I think that might be the last game standing.
Man,
my Steven Adams lineup's still my best lineup.
Is it really?
It says postponed underneath the game now too. It's so sad.
They really are just teasing us.
Yeah.
Oh, I did mean to ask you. Have you been in the XFL DFS streets, or are you sitting that one out?
No, yeah, that's how poorly I've been doing. That you don't even notice I'm playing. I enter all the 150 enters. I've been going like super contrarian, and with Walker going off,
that
hasn't been very profitable.
Yeah.
Yeah. And speaking of the Martingale system, each week I'm like, no, this is the week he's gonna suck.
I know.
This is the week he's gonna Cardale Jones, pick six, pulled after 2 passing attempts.
That was brutal. I know. I like that spot for defenders last week at home with everyone off them, and he still just couldn't get it going.
Walker was like owned like 40% on a 4-game slate. Yeah, I mean, but clearly he looks like he might have. What do you think? You think he has an NFL contract next year?
It's hard to say. It's like people love doing, it's like whenever there's like a really good college team and they're like, could they beat whatever team or whatever? And it's like, I know he's looking really good here. I think he could be a backup in the league. The thing about him that has me less excited about, say, his NFL prospects versus, say, someone like BJ Daniels or Jordan Ta'amu is he's not really a rushing guy. He's more of a just sit in the pocket guy. And I just wonder if with his full skill set, if that would give him an NFL ceiling.
I mean, the quarterbacks are well, you know what? It seems like there's going to be a decent amount of influx of young talent this year too in the draft.
Yeah.
But there's been a bunch of garbage quarterbacks. What do you think about the Bears situation? I'm in Chicago. Do you go one more year with Trubisky, or do you like try to go for like a Jameis Winston or something like that?
Well, before I just speak off uninformed, what is his official contract situation? Could they let him go without too much dead money?
I don't know. He's still on the rookie deal, so it's pretty team favorable.
Yeah.
I don't think you even have to release him. I don't think it even hurt you that bad.
Okay.
But I could be wrong.
Yeah. It's to me, I feel like we've seen NFL teams where they get stuck in this purgatory, the kind of the sunk cost fallacy where they're like, well, let's just do one more year, not realizing that they would just be better off cutting bait, moving on. Because it's like, can you really ask yourself, like, isn't it a binary question? Can we win a Super Bowl with this quarterback? Even if that means building a great team around him. And I just don't know how the Bears can look themselves, straight in the eye and say, yes, we can win a Super Bowl with Mitch Trubisky.
Yeah, I don't see how you can. And the thing is, they trade away so many picks to get to move up in a bunch of situations and to get who's the linebacker from the Raiders they got? Why can't I think of his name? Khalil Mack.
Yeah.
That they kind of have to go for it. Like, what are you going to do anyways? You don't have any first round picks. So I don't know. I think they're kind of screwed. I love how we're talking about football in March.
Hey, we're DFS Renaissance men. We just did what other show, Brian, is talking League of Legends, NFL, XFL, PGA, world pandemics. I mean, we have covered the bases.
Yes. Yeah, this was a weird one. So we probably could have gotten to more content, people. Sorry, but hey, I had fun.
It's been good. Yeah. If anyone else has any last questions in the chat here, any final things you'd like to tilt and get off your chest?
Brian Bales, my biggest question is, does MLB start on time? He must be talking about whether the actual league starts on time and not the individual games.
Right.
Like, because the individual games start a little later than NBA, like 6:07 or 6:10. But anyways, my guess would be 50-50.
Yeah.
50-50 at this point.
That sounds about right to me.
I
was just pulling up my FanDuel lineup, and I actually am running pretty pure because Gallinari was the only guy I had in that game.
Yes. Another guy asked, how much EV do you think you lose for every additional lineup fantasy Sharpie you enter? Well, generally speaking, if like this craziness doesn't happen, every lineup I enter should help me. If you're a winning player, for this specific slate, when this whole madness happened, how much do I lose on each one? I don't know. It would probably be pretty dramatic on average, but for tonight, I might get lucky. So I wouldn't be able to know till after the results come in.
So I think the dynamic that he's kind of hinting at here is like, people have heard the like rule of thumb that like every lineup after your best lineup is slightly negative expected value relative to that first lineup. But what you're saying is that your second, third, fourth is positive expected value versus the field's other lineups, even though it might have slightly less value than your best lineup, right?
Mm-hmm. The sum will be larger than my one individual lineup, and the sum of two lineups will be larger than one. The sum of two will be larger than one. The sum of three will be larger than two. But yeah, the EV would go down on each one theoretically.
Yeah.
Marcos Amparo. I have a rewards program at my local liquor store. So does that make me an alcoholic? No, that makes you a hero, Marcos.
I didn't even know liquor stores had reward. Do you like punch every handle of vodka you buy? They punch your card, or how does that work?
I don't know. I imagine you come in on your scooter because you probably don't have the ability to walk anymore, and they have to take it from your man purse, your little card, and buy and get your vodka. I'm guessing.
Yeah.
How much? What's your number one drink, Marcos? I'd like to know. Okay, Wes, best PGA value play, GPP or cash game, buddy? If you're still
give him one of each.
Okay, that's a good idea. So Joel Dahman for GPP. And I think I said this already, but the information could change slightly, from now until when I'm going to do it right after we log off here, but he should still be pretty good value play. And I like him and Berger if you consider 7,200 a good value play.
Yeah.
For cash games as well. So Damon, good in both. He's going to carry some ownership though, but not a ton. It looks like 11%. What do I have him at? Yeah, so I have him at 10 too. So 10% is not going to kill you. So you could play him in a tournament as well. Let's see if there's any other specific answers at 7,200. Don't hate it, especially if you like playing guys who are coming off a bad week. He crumbled last weekend. And Bud Colley's always a nice little flyer, dirt cheap, 6,200.
Yeah.
I don't know how much in a tournament I'm gonna have him. Let me see if I have him at all. Yeah, I'll have him in tournaments. Well, hold on, did that come over?
Have you ever done any work looking at like the general kind of rosters that say, I guess you could say all golf tournaments, but basically the age-old question, especially on a site on FanDuel that really facilitates a studs and duds approach versus like the more balanced. Do you have a take on which way you like to go?
Yeah, like my take is you should never really think of it that way because you have to let the slate decide for you. So like for today in the NBA, of course, assuming the madness didn't happen, it was a clear studs and duds night. Clear or not studs, scrubs.
Yeah.
Because there was just so much value with all the players sitting out that it built itself.
Yep.
I don't like, and we've talked about this off air before, I don't like manipulating my data or anything really to go. I try to keep my opinions out of it completely if I can. Yeah. Unless there's something egregious. And usually when there's something egregious, it's something wrong with my model or my process.
Yeah.
Or like I like uploaded the wrong info or something even.
Yeah.
But yeah, like even when I first started, that was a goal of mine. It's like, I want to keep all my biases as far away from my process as humanly possible. And I grew up like big sports fan, listening to a ton of sports radio, and it just got to me. Sports radio, I fucking hate them. Like I can't stand their hot takes and their stupid logic. And like, so like, I don't want to be that guy, you know what I mean? Where I'm like, oh yeah, coming up with all these narratives and building a lineup based off of that is just as far away as how I want to get. And listen, there's some people out there who probably can do that and make profit. So I'm not like shitting on them, but I know you're a big story guy.
Am I?
I
hope not.
I thought you.
Oh no, your lineup should tell a story.
Your lineup should tell a story.
Yeah, of course they should. They should. What?
So there is a lot of truth to that. So like in NFL, any stacking sport, your lineup can tell a story to give you some more correlation, right? So like the obvious one in the NFL is a QB in his wide receiver and then a run back option, or two wide receivers and a run back option. And you know, the theory there is you get up big and then the quarterback and the other team has to throw, and there is correlation there, and the data shows that. So that is a story. The problem is, how do you get to that with, and I talked about this in one of my correlation videos, where, okay, you know that there's a correlation, but you could see that, like, if you compare these two guys to two guys who are on the same team, they might still be better. So finding out some sort of middle ground where you're getting as much correlation but not losing any EV is where you want to constantly be keeping your head at, instead of just sticking a 4 or 5 man game stack in for 150 lineups on Sunday.
Yeah. And I think I've definitely fallen into that trap before. And I would guess that the people like me, when they succumb to the same thing, is, DFS can be overwhelming. We have 9 slots to fill. There's all of these different things to think about. When you decide, I'm going to game stack, it removes a lot of the decision making. You're like, all right, my pool of players I'm deciding for is just a couple of these wide receivers, or, a bring back over here. But to your point, we got to make sure that we're not sacrificing EV and, in some cases, projected points just because it makes it easier on our brains.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Like, no, these are correlated, so I'm smart. It's like, no, maybe not. Like, well, how much EV are you sacrificing?
Yeah.
And there's ways to figure that out. Really quick, because I wanted to tell you this, Peter, Fantasy Sharpie, do you think there's any validity to stacking tee times in golf, or stacking players who have similar skill strengths? So the second part is players who have similar skill strengths. No way. I would never stack that. The first part, yes, I would, based on weather, for sure. And
we had that last week with Arnold Palmer.
Yeah, and it wasn't even that great. And then the week before, either the week before or 2 before, there was another opportunity, and it went sideways. And that's the problem with stacking weather in. Listen, there is definitely a correlation. Do you golf, Peter?
I try. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Me too. Yeah. I play a lot in the summer, and that's another shitty thing. I don't know if we can be able to play golf. But anyways, all about me and my golf. If you play in the wind, when it's blowing 20 miles an hour, like, golf isn't even fun, or 30 miles an hour. Like, it's definitely matters, and the data backs that up in the PGA, where the effect of wind on guys is like, it's probably like half a stroke per 10 miles an hour wind, or something like that. So when you're getting 20, 30 mile an hour gusts, your Rory McIlroy goes down to, who's like, I got my sheet up here, I can tell you. So that would be like, he would be like a Paul Casey or somebody in that range, Tony Finau, if he's playing in the wrong wind. But like, so many times, like the wind is accompanied by rain and thunder, and then they stop it early. And then your guy who was supposed to get screwed gets benefited because he comes out with a wet course either later in the day or the next morning. So like, the DFS correlation is a little weaker, if that makes sense, right? Because obviously, if you tracked when a guy plays in the wind, it's going to show this sucks for this guy. But in DFS correlation, that guy might get out of it somehow, or the wind might go a little later or come a little earlier. So it's tough. But if you can find a clear shift, the field has not adjusted to this information. I can tell you that pretty much for sure. So you should do it. And I would do, if I could just give like a heuristic, which isn't generally that good in DFS, but I would just do like half a fantasy point off for that side, for either the earlier tee time or the second tee time. But speaking on the players, it looks like the weather's gonna be perfect all weekend.
Yep.
So not
And,
this week.
and I think probably one thing that people should keep an eye out for would be double counting, right? Depending what projections you're using, someone that might already have been baked in to the projections to where, don't you think it's important to know, has the person making the projections already adjusted for this weather, or am I double counting it as I manually adjust?
Yeah, it depends on how you. So I build my projections from scratch on my own. Um, so
I'm
I
just
know
going to
what.
tell you right now, Brian, you're probably in the minority on that.
Yes, you're right. I say this like every show I do. Like I think everyone should try to build their own projections, even if they suck. Like it's a good learning process, so you can compare it to Alex Osmos and blah blah blah. But yeah. So most people don't. So here's what you got to do then. What is getting baked into your the source you're using? So if you're using Alex's, send a message to him. Hey, did you bake into the weather? Right? If he says no, perfect. Use his information. Drop the side that has the bad weather issue a half a point. Run your optimizer, and take all and win all the money.
Yeah, I mean the problem with hitting up Alex is he's probably on some thirst trap on Instagram, commenting, liking, faving. So you just got to make sure you catch him at the right time.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Send him a message at 5:50
Yeah.
Central.
Well, it's so funny too because he did the bit, as he is taking credit for popularizing, these girls set out their engagement traps and quote tweet them with something that's on your mind. But then I've noticed that all of a sudden this Katie Bell tweet will pop up on my feed and I'll be like, why the hell is this here? Why is there this scantily clad women? And then I just see up above, Alex Baker liked this.
Yes.
And I'm like, he's not even doing bits. He's just honestly showing his appreciation for this tweet.
Did you see my tweet on that? I said it a while ago. I'm like, I'm convinced Alex is doing this to get an edge on his opponents, because they get distracted when they're searching for news or building their lineups. Because
Yeah.
he shoves this Katie Bell woman in your face, 20 minutes before lock, throwing you completely out of your game.
He's not sending you down a rabbit hole. He's sending you down a whack-a-hole. That's what he's doing. And meanwhile, he's got his hands on the wheel at 10-3, updating his projections.
He could care less.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I believe it.
All right. One more question here as we wrap up. Someone had asked about tiers. We were talking about this the other day, asking, have you looked at PGA tiers on DraftKings?
Yes. And I am going to do them because the Roto Grinders, as we talked about earlier, Peter, has it up on their optimizer, and Fantasy Cruncher also has it up on their optimizer. So I don't know which one you guys use, but they have it, and it's probably a good time to do it. From the start, it might be less competition. I don't know if they'll keep it up either. You never know. Sometimes they throw stuff out there and it doesn't happen. Can I answer this one more question here, Peter?
Yeah. Oh, of course.
Can you give us a rundown on EV and how I should use it for DFS purposes? Okay, that could take like a whole hour to talk about, but when you talk about EV or ROI or anything like that, it's just like a general term, but it does actually have. You can actually use like certain programs to figure out the exact amount of ROI that you can get from a set of inputs that you're going to put into it. But just generally speaking, when people talk about it in DFS or gambling, poker or sports betting, they're just saying like that you'll make money for every dollar you bet. And so in our world, DFS world, that is basically fantasy points, right? Like fantasy points is and combined with an optimizer is basically doing like a little mini sim for you of what should occur based off of the inputs you give it, which is fantasy points. So you have to adjust your fantasy points somehow to provide the highest EV or the highest amount that you could possibly win given the amount of entries you're going to do into a GBP. I know that's like super general, but really when people use those terms, they're talking super generally. Like Rudy Gobert is a really plus EV play tonight,
Yeah.
they're not talking they're not talking specifically like $1.24 of EV, right?
Yeah.
Or 14% ROI on this play. Like that's not what they mean.
Well, another good, I've been reading this book called Fortune's Formula right now, about the guy. Well, it's about a few different guys, but one of them, John Kelly, who invented the Kelly criteria, which I believe you talked about that recently on one of your vids. But like a good illustration is blackjack, right? Where the house has an edge, but if you were, counting cards and you knew the deck was favorable towards the end of the deck and you scaled up your bet, you are maximizing a positive EV situation. Whereas say you were min betting when the house had the advantage. And so that was a negative EV. So you're trying to limit your losses. All of a sudden it swings in your advantage. And now you have to press that advantage to be able to take advantage and be profitable in the long run. I think that's probably a good way that helped me wrap my head around it initially.
Blackjack Attack is a good book I read back in the day when I used to count cards when I was younger. And that was the strategy he recommends as well, as standing behind, counting till the deck is in your favor. The casinos look for that now.
Yeah.
And you will get some eyes on you. But yeah, for sure, it's all EV. And the only way I guess to answer your question is, Krat, is you have to you have to take some stats courses, or just Google around for a few days to just figure out how you can apply it if you want to use EV or ROI to DFS. But the way everyone else is talking about it, they're just saying it's a good bet, generally speaking.
Yeah. It's a way to feel. It's like when I tell people I intermittent fast, what I'm really saying is I just skip breakfast, but it sounds so much cooler. So you just say, oh dude, oh, this is so positive EV, man. So positive EV. Someone asked, Neil wants to know if you have any books that you'd recommend along with Bales's books, his DFS for Dummies, I believe is that series, or for smart people. Any other books you recommend?
So the two I recommended before, they're not like super DFS related, is Kahneman and Tversky's Thinking and Fast and Slow. That's like for thinking about biases.
Yeah.
And although I think he's insane, Nicholas Taleb's not Black Swan, Fooled by Randomness is a good one for kind of getting over superstitions, or at least like recognizing you might have some. Because sometimes I'm sure people do this, like, I'll never enter this event because it's always bad luck and stuff like that. Like that could happen in poker and in DFS just the same. And then one I haven't started yet, but I got a recommendation from Steve Buzzard. He's another DFS pro. Was called Super Forecasting. So you might want to check it.
I did a interview a long time ago. I was doing the show Fantasyland, and we did with it's not Tetlock is one of the main guys, and it's his right hand man. And now I'm blanking on it, but that's the Super Forecasting, a lot of their stuff. And I believe they talk about it with Kahneman's book too, about just how important base rates are for forecasting. And that kind of ties back into what you were saying too about, why you don't want to get too crazy with your picks, because these base rates and not letting your own biases and stuff kind of affect your decision making, and that most of this stuff is going to, regress to a mean. But yeah, and I would just say to someone who's saying like, what other books about DFS? It's funny because I've been reading this book called Range by David Epstein, talking about how, it's more important, especially for younger people and even people earlier in their career, to try out a whole bunch of different things as opposed to being hyper specialized at the start. And one of the examples he used was like the power of analogous thinking, and how, people approaching problems using analogies from completely different areas, subjects, genres can really inform and like help people see a puzzle in a new light. And so maybe think about, when he recommends Taleb or Kahneman, psychology or anti-fragility, these concepts, it's fun to read those books because you will do the connections for yourself. Your brain will read that and be like, oh, I understand this barbell concept now as it pertains to ownership. So reading those books they might not be a DFS book, but you will read them as a DFS book.
Yeah, that could be super helpful. Anything that'll get you started in creating your own model or coming up with some unique process. And a lot of people have like been showing me their process. They ask me a lot of questions, and there is a whole bunch of unique ways to go about it, you know. So there is no one gospel yet. I think there will be, honestly, in a few years. Like there will just be one thing you should be doing, and a lot of people know it, unfortunately. Anti-fragility really quick. I want to talk about that with Bale's book. He talks about it in there, and I think people might get a little carried away with anti-fragility. Like I think whatever you're doing, and I guess I talked about this a little bit in one of my videos, where like you need to get some money back. Like you not need to get money back, but like you don't want to be just like 0% return, 0% return, 0% return first place. Like
hey,
that's
just at me when you're doing this rant, Brian.
So like you want to have like you want to be like in between there somewhere. And I don't, it's hard. You can't really give. Someone asked me this on Twitter the other day, like, what range would you put this in? And it's like you can't just use a heuristic to say like it shouldn't be over 280%. I'll just make it up, 280% ownership. It's like, well, it might be different on different slates, but you do want to have some sort of middle ground between, for GPPs anyways, being contrarian, but not just like 15%, bottom 15% contrarian. You know what I mean? And I like Bales and his books are great and everything. But like, I think reading that could give you the idea where like, oh, it's okay to lose for 3 straight weeks. And it's like, no, I mean, if you're playing every day, like you should be getting some of your money back there. And it's really hard to control whether you take first or 10th, right? Or second and 14th. Like there's a lot of times there's just a couple points separating those, and you have no damn control over that anyways. So it's not like clearly there is a benefit for taking less ownership, but just be a little careful with the anti-fragility stuff.
Yep. Yeah, this whole NFL season, it was kind of a running bit, but it was also true. It was like I had my play the best plays angel on my one shoulder, and I had my galaxy brain devil on my other shoulder, and they were constantly vowing for my attention, and far too often the galaxy brain devil would win out, and I would keep cashing those $0 checks. So do what Brian says and play the best plays and at least balance in some winning with losing. It sounds like a nice plan.
Yeah.
All right, Brian, this has been super fun. Are there any other housekeeping notes you'd like to tell the people here as we wrap up?
No, I think we covered it. It sucks for everyone who got screwed tonight. Bummer. I feel you. Hopefully, hopefully things don't go so poorly in the coming weeks for all of us here.
Yeah, we haven't figured out locked in the name for the show yet, but hopefully it's not a just mush factory every week, right? When we go on, everything goes to shit.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, guys. For Brian, for myself, for our producer Taylor on the 1s and 2s, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you guys next week.
Have a good one.